obviously, because we talk about meat, and keto, because we're quite happy to talk about keto. And Richard, of course, is the Keto-Pro. Hi, Rich.
How we doing, man? You okay?
Yeah, I'm sort of over Christmas, but today we had a Christmas meal with the family because it was the only time, because Jane's got 2 daughters and they've got that family and the other daughter's with her boyfriend and that family. The only time we could all get together was today. So we had a Christmas dinner, but it wasn't a Christmas dinner, and I had what's called a trio of meats. So I had 50-day aged sirloin and chicken and pork, and it also had a little bit of stuffing, which I did eat, and you could have a side order of pigs in blankets, so it was sort of Christmassy, but it was good. What about yourself?
Excellent. Yeah, it came and went. No, it was good. This is the first Christmas. In fact, the period that I had off was the first day even that I've had off work in probably about 7 years. The business my business runs 24 hours a day. I do consulting, several days a week. The stall and the other parts of the business work on weekends. But as far as the e-com side goes, it's the buck stops with me. So I'm online every day. So we do this on Sundays. As much as I love it, it can feel like work. It's all about getting the word out there. I broadcast from the office, so it involves me coming over to the office, dropping my little girl off to her nan's. So it means that when we do what we do, we get very little time that we can just actually switch off and completely relax. And I haven't been away from my phone or my emails for an incredibly long time, but I managed to do that for a few days over the Christmas break, to the point where I didn't check my emails, I didn't look at my phone, didn't check my messages, and it allowed me to spend some time with my little girl and Amanda, and we had a fantastic time. It was brilliant. I should be doing more things like that. I should be dedicating more time to family, but it's, as you're self-employed, you need to take the work when it comes, and unfortunately it doesn't always allow to take the time off when you want to, but I did this year, first time, as I say, in 7 years, and it was fantastic. And the first day that I actually went back to work properly, it was it was a shock to the system after having a few days off, but it was good. I can't complain. I had a fantastic time. Lots of board games, lots of games with my little girl, lots of family time. So all good. Fantastic.
And it's now 2024. So do you have any resolutions or anything that you particularly want to do this year?
Yeah, I'd love to have more time for family. It's not something that I do on purpose, but as I've put everything I own, myself and my wife put everything we own into the business. We can't afford for it not to succeed. So, we need to do the work when we have to, or when it needs to be done. But I'm hoping that I can be a little bit more organized during 24, and that will allow a little bit more time. Athletic goals are to continue down the running and cycling route. Ideally, I want to hit triathlon eventually, but it's for now. I want to improve as much as I can on running and cycling before I introduce that. But this year, I'd like to qualify for Team GB in duathlon. And coming from a bodybuilding background, it's a big 180. It's a massive difference, big shock to the system. But things are progressing really well. I managed to do a little bit more training during the Christmas period, and my athletic performance has gone through the roof, within that short space of time, because I don't even get the time to put the training in. Other athletes are training 3-4 times a week on each running and cycling, and I'm lucky if I do one run and one cycle within a week. The second that I've managed to put a few extra runs in, my times have absolutely plummeted, as in a good way. My times to do that distance have come down. and my power has gone up exponentially on the bike. So the more you put in, the more you get out. So yeah, those are my goals. Continue to educate people and continue more awareness. I think you and I probably deserve within this space. I'd like to see our profiles grow a little bit more. I think the advice that we put out is probably second to none, and I would argue that we're at top in the UK. And sometimes I don't feel we get the recognition. There are several people who've come to the scene recently from less followers and subscribers than us who have gone to over 1 million. And these are people who, I've spoken to in the past and told about keto and carnivore, and they weren't interested, told me it was rubbish and carbs were required. And now they've suddenly become bold and brash on Instagram, and their profiles have exploded. I've even reached out since to try to connect, and they're not interested. It's as if they're too good for us now. But we were there first, and we were the ones that we've been pushing this for 11 years. Yet we're left behind. I don't feel that we get the recognition that we deserve. Nobody out there is putting content out that is any better or more knowledgeable than ours, I believe. And we've been on some of the world's biggest podcasts, with the likes of Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Bart Kay. We've been liaising with people such as Paul Mason and Professor Noakes and Professor Bart Kay, and we've got Zoe Harcoom. I've got Zoe Harcoom coming on shortly, and I'm going to have a chat with her about coming on to our show. So watch that space. So no promises. I need to get her to commit to that first, but we're there. And I think that the advice that we put out needs to be recognized. So anybody listening that agrees, please feel free to share our Sunday lives and our information as much as you can. Help the cause.
Yeah, and it's funny how people, I don't think they understand how subscribing helps. It costs nothing, and 22% of the people that watch my videos subscribe, which means that 78% don't. But they come back, which is really strange. So if you haven't subscribed, just do it. It does really help. And one of the most consistent comments I get is they like what we're doing because we're not selling or pushing carnivore or pushing this too hard. So I think, oh yeah, with the name checking, I mean, also we've had Robert Kiltz on, he's got a huge following, Dr. Robert Kiltz.
There's lots of names that, we do the Tuesday live, with Jonathan and Ben and Phil, and they're all of these people are fantastic. We could, the list is endless, isn't it? But my point is that we are there with all of these people who are, recognized all over the world. Yeah, but we seem to be lost, amongst it all. But never mind.
Yeah, I think my channel's beginning to turn, though. I would be honest with you there, and I think yours will as well. I just think it will happen. So in the last, I think on December the 6th when we did this, I said I wanted to get to 10,000 subscribers, and today I was on 12,000, which I couldn't believe, and I hit.
Wow.
Since I started, I hit 500,000 views, 500,000 views, but in the last month it's been 127,000. So I think the trend is there. So I want you to be heartened by that, Richard, because I think it is getting noticed. And I know your subscriber base is less at the moment, but I remember when I first saw Bart Kay, and he was on 14,000, and now he's on 40. So it can definitely change. Definitely,
I know it can.
It's just slow, isn't it?
It's just. I think mine in particular is incredibly slow. So my numbers take. I probably get five subscribers a day, and it's a bit pathetic, really. But I think I know why as well. I don't think my videos get seen very well. And when early on, I posted a few videos which went against mainstream media and things that were in the press. And one of those videos is still live. And I mentioned the naughty C word. And it's still in there. But everything I presented was evidence-based. And it's been proven to be fact. Yet there's a big warning on that video for facts about COVID, click here sort of thing, Maybe I should take it down, but that is one of the most educational pieces that I've ever given, and I don't feel as...
Why not put it on Rumble?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're on Rumble. I'm not personally. I know I could put it on there. It's not going to hurt to put on anyway, but I could even re-edit and take it out and repost it again, but it's... you shouldn't have to. You know, we should be able to talk about any topic that we want. All we're talking about is our advice, our opinions, our expertise, based on the research that we have. We're presenting that, and it's up to the listener to look through that and listen to it and make up their own minds. We're not telling people that, you know, you should definitely do this or you should definitely do that. But everything that we present to our best of our knowledge is highly evidence-based and true to as we believe it to be. But it's... I don't want to take that video down, you know, but I do think that that's what's hindering me massively.
Well, then I would bite the bullet and take it down and re-upload it somewhere else for a bit and just point people to it. If you really feel that's the thing that's holding you back. And don't forget, we're going to get into the content of the show, you know, with some questions in a minute. We can start putting those out as shorts and reels and just get your profile up a bit. Anyway, let's have a look at who's checked in. HGL. Hi there, fellow carnivores. Carnivore Muscle. Good to see Jonathan. We just mentioned him. Jonathan, originally the composition consultant, does a very good line of talking about training, and he's got a great book called...
And he's just released an ebook, yeah. Fantastic ebook.
Matthew, who's a moderator over at our Mighty Networks. So hi, Matthew. He's very good. Selena, which I think we've seen Selena quite a few times, and we'll probably see her Monday at 5 p.m. on our Mighty Network Live, which is exclusive in there. We've got Gersh. Hi guys. Andy828, good evening, everyone. We're coming to a question in a minute, but I'm just trying to name check everyone because I do appreciate everybody coming in. Darryl Bodsworth, good day, guys. So I'm assuming that's someone from the other side of the world. And here we go. Here's a question. So we're going to be able to edit this, and when we do the replay, this is where we're going to start. So here's a question from HGL. Greetings from Nambia, Africa. A 43-year-old female weighing 46 kilograms, weight training 5 times a week for 20 minutes each day, well-toned. Would like to know if it's safe to eat 200 to 230 grams of protein per day long-term. What are your thoughts, sir?
So while you were reading that out, I have just done the calculation of 46 kilos into pounds. So that's 101.2 pounds. Based on, I mean, the female recommendation that we tend to put out is around 0.9 grams per pound of body weight. And it should really be ideal body weight. So, I mean, top end, 100 grams of protein is plenty. 200 grams, it is a lot. Is it going to cause any harm?
Can I interject?
For sure.
How are you doing, HGL? If you're eating 200, 230, how are you feeling? What are you looking like? Are you feeling satiated? Are you, why have you picked 200, 230? I'm guessing because your body is calling out for that protein. Have you had a background of under eating? You know, when you are doing lots of working out and we don't know what level you're at, you might be elite. Then you could, the turnover of protein synthesis or muscle, I should say, is huge. If you're really working out hard. So sorry to interrupt there. I was just trying to say to the people out there, these are great questions. More context always helps. You can always back it up with an extra question. But yeah, let's go back to Rich. Sorry about that, Rich.
No, spot on. You're 100% right. It's context is incredibly important. And you're right. How do you feel? Because if you feel fantastic, then there's no issue. It's certainly not going to cause any harm. It's whether it is optimal. Always bear in mind that fat is equally important. In fact, fat, I always say the protein is the most important macronutrient. And I say that for the reason the protein in nature comes with fat, and we need both. But fat fat is preferenced within the body more than anything else. So the reason that we say protein is the most important is because if you're consuming protein, generally you're consuming enough or adequate fat along with that protein. Concentrate on your protein, everything else will fall into place. As long as you're consuming the correct type of protein. If you were consuming 200 grams of lean protein, then there may be a deficiency of fat, and maybe this is why you feel the need to consume more. There's a lot of context, but as you rightly say, if you're feeling well and you're performing well and you're looking fantastic, brilliant. If there are issues, if you're not achieving the goals that you want to, you're not feeling fantastic, you're suffering with brain fog, fatigue, all these sorts of things, then we need to look at that as a separate thing. But if they are causing problems, I would suggest to lower closer to 100 and increase fat. And again, there'll be probably a floodgate of other questions around that. Now, I'm sure HDL will pop further information up, and maybe we can circle back to it. But I've consumed up to 400 grams, I think, of protein per day for prolonged periods of time. It didn't cause me any harm. I just don't think it was optimal. I think overall I was consuming too much. It led to me being bloated. Along with that protein, I was consuming fat, so I was consuming too much energy in general. It didn't work well for me, and the idea was that the more protein I consumed, the bigger muscles that I would grow. And yes, there is a correlation, but there is an optimal level also. 400 was way too high for me. Considerably, it was incredibly well over what I needed to consume. And I learned that as I dropped it down and concentrated more on eating as nature intended, consuming protein along with fat, concentrated on my training and how to optimize my training in regards to what I wanted to achieve. I was training too much. And when I learned that, less is best, not to train longer than an hour and to concentrate on eccentric movements and to train for what you want to get good at. It's pointless training weights if as you say, Steve, you want to be a footballer. It's and it's very true.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of
even at this Christmas dinner today, they were talking about pull-ups. What's the best thing to do? Pull-ups. I said, doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
But I can only do one. I said, right, great. Well, one is better than a lot of people. And at one point, you're going to be able to do two. So just keep going. Your body will adapt. And I said, once you get to two, it becomes quite easy to get to three. It just does. And anyway, so
yeah,
that I think the context is very important. Nice question here. I think you'll like this one, Rich, especially as you're more of a keto guy than I am. I did do keto. I know all about keto, but Rich is the main man. F-chat. Hi, guys. I started keto plus intermittent fasting today. Previously, I was fat adapted, but lately I've been eating lots of carbs. Well, that's where you've gone wrong. And been gaining the weight back. So my plan is to do protein sparing modified fasting and incorporate intermittent fasting. So doing like 16-8. For people who don't know what that means, 16 hours where you don't eat, and an 8-hour window where you do eat. So what do you think of that plan?
Yeah, that's a fantastic way for losing weight or shredding body fat incredibly quickly. Protein sparing modified fasting is when we concentrate more on protein and we reduce the fat. It's a fantastic way to rip up and shred. I generally wouldn't recommend it for someone new to the game, because it is difficult. Your body's coming away from a fuel source that it has been adapted to almost your entire existence, and then we're going into trying to be fueled by fat. And the ketone production from the fat in the early stages is not efficient enough really to supply significant energy. This is why there's an adaptation process. So the last thing we'll be doing is taking away the fuel source that could be giving us that energy initially for that transition. But for someone who's done it before and knows the ropes, it's an incredible tool. Just remember that we need the fat. I wouldn't do it for prolonged periods of time. I personally would maybe cycle it 2 days of lean and then have a fat refeed and put some dietary fat back in. But it is a fantastic tool. Not for someone new to the game, as I say, but if you are well versed in how your body works in regards to being ketogenic, then it is a great tool. Fasting 16/8, brilliant. I don't like numbers. I don't like being tied down to, right, I've done my 16 hours, it's time to eat. Now, we've covered this a few times, but I'll say it again because it bears repeating. As the White Stripes once said, it's a song, if you don't know it, no. Never mind. Wasted. Wasted. So when people ask me, do I fast? My answer is no, I don't fast. Well, when did you last eat? Well, 18 hours ago. Now, the reason that I say that is that I eat intuitively. I eat when I'm hungry. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. I don't intentionally fast. So I'm not clock watching. I'm not looking at my watch, waiting for that 16-hour mark so I can consume my meal. I am eating intuitively. If I wake up in the morning, I'm hungry, I will eat. Perfect example, I went for a 10-mile run this morning. I came back and I ate some chicken legs that I cooked the night before. Normally, I wouldn't eat that early. I was back by about 10:30. But I felt I needed it. So I consumed those chicken legs. Typically, I wouldn't consume food until 6 or 7 p.m. because I'm not hungry. So I don't fast intentionally. I listen to my body. I eat when I'm hungry. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. And this is why I would say don't get caught up on time. Don't get caught. Don't be pigeonholed. If you feel like breaking that fast at 15 hours, then that's fine too. It's there's a lot of nuance involved in regards to the benefits of fasting and when fasting is elicited and all of these things of autophagy. And we've covered it previously. Being ketogenic, your body is benefiting from that state all the time, constantly. Just varying degrees of being in that state of autophagy, but it's always there. All of the responses, the brown fat activation, lipolysis, the autophagy, mitophagy, all of these are there purely through being ketogenic, even if you are still consuming food and not fasting. But then we can further dive into that by implementing fasting. But don't be tied down by the numbers. Eat intuitively. 16/8 is a fantastic gauge, but don't feel that you have to stick strictly to that 16/8.
That's a great answer, Rich. Next question is from Tom J. Hi, Tom. I can answer this and then Rich can chime in because we've got to save his voice a little bit because we're doing an hour and a half tonight. We're doing an hour here and then half hour on
Apple crumble.
Apple crumble. What carnivore food should one avoid with Hashimoto's? Personally, I don't think any. But I think if we're going to talk about Hashimoto's and what foods to avoid, just for the broader audience, gluten would be one. If you have gluten in your diet, that's not particularly good. What's interesting now is I'm going to give you a list, and this is even what the mainstream says. And it should give you a clue as to why I said carnivore foods, pretty much nothing is a problem. Soy, I definitely would avoid that. It's a goitrogen, which is, when the big things grow on your neck, that's a goiter, and soy definitely is one of those compounds that can promote that. Cruciferous vegetables are not good. Same reason, really. So I wouldn't eat those. Excessive iodine. Now, this is an interesting one from my phlebotomy side of things. I've seen this where people have taken too much iodine, and yes, normally you excrete it in your urine, and you can do an iodine clearance test where it's over a 24-hour period. You ingest a certain amount of iodine, and then they measure your urine. And let's make this really simple. You're given 100 units of iodine. If over a 24-hour period you urinate out 100 units of iodine, then you are not iodine deficient. Okay, so that's basically how they test it. So there's nothing in the carnivore way of eating, personally, I don't see as a problem. Have you got any thoughts, Rich?
Yeah, the only thing that there's, when we look at the carnivore community, there are still some small groups of people who can have a reaction to autoimmune issues in regards to casein in milk, including raw dairy. And the list goes, seafood can cause issues in some people. But look, I think if you are living a carnivore lifestyle, you have removed, you've hit all the big hitters. Soy is incredibly damaging to the body. It's an endocrine disruptor. It causes severe issues to women and men. So a lower sperm count, cause infertility, cause gynomastia, man boobs in men. It's an awful compound, and it was once given that the Chinese females used to give it to the husbands who had too many children or were unfaithful in order to make them infertile. So it's a powerful compound, and not to be messed around with. And in fact, we probably go a lot deeper on this if we've got time later. But yeah, I agree completely with all of those. I mean, generally the carnivore foods are pretty safe, and you're going to be exponentially healthier consuming an animal-based diet. I would do that first, and if you're still suffering with issues, then maybe do a full elimination protocol. Go to the lion diet, so just consume beef and lamb, grass-fed, and then reintroduce things like eggs and cheese, possibly fish, other seafood, chicken, pork, and see how you get on. But I think removing the others are the big hitters.
Yep, that's the main thing. Interesting question here. I'll field a little bit, and then Rich, you can do a little bit as well. White Wolf, I'm carnivore. GastroDoc says my pee is low sodium. He doesn't get, or she doesn't get carnivore. Any thoughts? Well, yeah, many doctors don't get carnivore. I know that's not what you're asking. I was being flippant there. Low sodium concentration in urine. And this sounds like we're being patronizing, or I'm being patronizing, but I'm not. It means one of two things. One is you're retaining the sodium, or your excretion rate is lower than usual. So you have to find out why that is. So yes, if there's a low concentration of sodium in the urine, it is a thing that you go, right, we need to see what is happening here. Now, going back to the other thing, what's your clinical presentation? Is there any problems? Have you got any swelling that is unexplained? Have you got any pains that are unexplained? Are you on medications? This is the other thing. Many doctors don't like to say, oh, that medication I'll put you on, this could be causing some sodium retention, or it could be lowering your excretion rate. There is a couple of other things. You could have some kidney tests, filtration rate of your kidney. You could look at your blood urea nitrogen, just make sure that the filtration is working okay. But it shouldn't be looked at in isolation. So for me, that's my thoughts. If you said, do I need to do any more bloods? My first question would be, well, it would be great to do some bloods, because I get like £5 commission for doing the bloods. But what's your clinical presentation? And if you said there's absolutely zero, I feel fit as a fiddle. My heart rate is great. I don't know. Basically, I feel great. I would say, well, we'll keep an eye on it. But if you want to do more bloods, then I would look at your kidney, do a kidney panel, which is literally like 4 or 5 different tests. So that's my take. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, I agree completely. Are you consuming sodium? Is the other question. Are you adding salt to your meals? Are you consuming enough salt from the grass-fed beef and lamb that you consume in? Are you consuming electrolytes? But beyond that, I mean, yeah, it comes back down to exactly as you say. If you're feeling fantastic, then is there really a problem? Because I think that is the best barometer of health, isn't it? Is how we feel. So yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Great, yes, and that's true actually. And if you restrict your sodium intake, your body hangs on to sodium because it's critical. So that was really good. And an elementary part I should have mentioned. So that's why I'm rich in.
Insulin resistance, as a side note, will also cause sodium retention. So if you are coming from a high carbohydrate background, you could still be insulin resistant, and it does take a bit of time, but it can be reversed incredibly quickly. But without context, again, we'd probably be unable to go a little bit deeper. But
nice segue, because we asked for context. So there's 4 messages here just giving us a little bit of context from earlier. F-chat. I try to do resistance training every day, and we'll do my training in 2 hours. So that is a long session. Since I'm focused on losing fat as my primary goal, I'm not concerned with my meal timings as long as I hit my protein. So the next thing is, my biggest problem is adherence to a diet at night after my workout, because I get really hungry So I'm trying to combat that by saving most of my calories for later at night. So I would just say my nutrients there. My meal plan is 2 cans of tuna pre-workout, then 4 whole eggs, and 200 to 300 grams of cooked chicken breast, and I might have a 4-ounce salmon too if needed. What do you think? Should I add the salmon? I'm going to rewind to the question, the bit before where you said you work out for 2 hours. I mean, and then you feel hungry. Well, that's a very long session, and I'm not sure that would be something I would recommend if I was your personal trainer and you were giving me all this feedback. And like I say, this is just for information, just for discussion. It's not one-to-one, so you can ignore this or you can ruminate on it and look it up. But if you said those things to me, I'd say, well, of course you're hungry. You're working out for 2 hours and that's too much. You need to get into more high intensity. To me, I don't think you can be intense for 2 hours. If you are, I would be very surprised. But I would say if you are intense for 2 hours, being ravenously hungry makes total sense. And I think your body is saying to you, you are just burning through too much. And I think long term, that's not sustainable. I feel that you'll end up burnt out, actually not getting the gains you want, retaining weight, actually body fat, because your body is in an extreme stress situation. I think we use the word stress in such a way that you think it's like when some idiot is on the road and does a ridiculous maneuver, or your boss is telling you something you know is completely rubbish. You feel that stress is those sort of moments where you want to pull your hair out or punch someone. And that isn't what stress is. Stress is those things, but it isn't just those things. So when you stress your body during exercise, your body is reading that as a thing that is putting it in danger. That's why it responds. It needs to be able to lift these weights. It doesn't know you've got dumbbells. It could, for all your body realizes, it could be you're having to build a house or you're having to get, do some hunting, and it will make bigger muscles and better joints and stuff like that. And you're doing it for 2 hours, and that's a really long time. So yeah, you're bound to feel really hungry. So I would look at. Personally, I would look at your training and see if you can do more in less time, or do that first hour, but do that hour in 45 minutes, cut down your rest periods and don't even do the second hour. That's personally what I think. And then you won't feel that. So I gave a sort of rich answer. It was a bit too long for me. Do you want to add anything, Rick?
Yeah, I used to do those 2-hour sessions. When I began my bodybuilding journey, I trained every day. And the fact is that it was not optimal. When you train for prolonged periods of time, in excess of 45 minutes to an hour, you increase cortisol significantly. Cortisol is going to cause an increase in appetite, which is the stress, as you just alluded to. It's going to make you hungry. It's going to make you tired. It's going to make you fatigued. And it's going to increase inflammation, which is going to prevent you from losing weight. The high intensity stuff is far better. No matter what your discipline is, weight training, even for running. If you're training for a marathon, then you have to run longer. Now that said, information that I came across recently that was sent to me by Sarah Davis, looked at the world record holder for the 100-mile distance run, marathon, whatever you want to call it. And she was a doctor, and I'm paraphrasing you, but basically she never ran over 16 miles, I think, a day. But she used to split her training. She'd run 8 miles in the morning and 8 in the evening, and that was her 16 every day. The typical protocol when it comes to a marathon runner or someone training for a marathon, they will increment their runs week on week until they get to about 18. And generally, if you get to 18 miles, you're good to go for a marathon, and then you do that and it's done. But it's hard to train or run a marathon in training. But that time running is a long time, and it does cause a stress on the body, and that does come with a price. It can allow you to lose muscle protein, increase that stress state, increase inflammation, all of these sorts of things. So when this lady was doing those 8-mile runs split twice per day, I started to look into that, and that's how I try to do a lot of my training. I try to still keep my runs and my cycles to generally an hour or less, if possible. Weight training. Where are we? That was me when I was training 45 minutes 4 times a week. And that was it. And I was in the shape of my life. 2% body fat when I competed, and ripped and shredded and full of muscle. You don't need to train for 2 hours. And I think 200 grams of protein is too much. Looking at the amount of fat you're consuming, I don't think you're consuming enough fat. The fat you are consuming, yes, there's 4 egg yolks, but that works out as about 24 grams of fat, which I don't believe is enough. There's no fat in the tuna. We need to get some fat, some saturated fats, some quality fats from some grass-fed beef or lamb. The fat that you are getting from the salmon is fantastic. It's omega-3s, EPA, DHA, great, but they're not the best fats for us. They are fantastic, and I'm not demonizing the omega-3s, but saturated fats are essential. We need those. They are the building blocks. And choline is brilliant, but I think lower the protein, up the fat, that is going to help with satiety. You don't need to hit a caloric value. Get calories out of your head completely. Calories is the biggest load of rubbish that we have ever been told, second to cholesterol. Do not track your calories. Hit your protein, but that protein, as we said, was just over 100 grams for someone of your weight. Go a little bit higher if you want, but 200 I think is excessive, and I don't believe that you're consuming enough fat. Drop your training to 45 to an hour, and as Stephen said, hit that high intensity, and I believe that you will see far better gains in regards to building and cutting.
Yeah, and I think F-Chat has also put, I would appreciate it if you guys could alleviate my concern about losing muscle from fasting if I hit my protein. I'm always spacing my meals over 5 meals a day with adequate protein. And personally, this is, to me, someone that needs a bit of coaching. And we rarely say that. We're not here to sell coaching, but it is something where I feel a lot of what's being said is possibly is not the right thing to be doing for your concerns. If you want to gain muscle, and Robert Sykes, Keto Savage, summed it up really nicely. Do you want to gain muscle and lose fat, body fat? Don't do it at the same time. He said, gain your muscle and then lose the body fat. He thinks that's, and I quite like that idea. I mean, I've managed to gain muscle and lose fat, and it is very difficult. If you're fasting, you could be cross-cancelling some of your gains, or I think you could be spending too much money on protein that you're not utilizing correctly. So I can alleviate your fears a little bit. But I do think you need a complete sort of look at what you're doing. Maybe watch this again. Have a look at our Mighty Networks, because we talk live on a Monday and other people can answer your questions. There will be people in the chat talking to you as well. What do you think, Rich? I don't really want to spend all the time on one person's questions.
Yeah, look, I'll blitz through this incredibly quickly. 5 meals is far too many, because we build muscle based on an mTOR reaction. Whenever we consume adequate protein, which is around 40 to 50 grams or 3 grams of leucine, we elicit an mTOR response. It's this mTOR response that allows us to build muscle. That will reset within 3.5 to 4 hours. If you consume protein again within that time, you're not benefiting from the full activation of that mTOR reset. So ideally, you want 3 meals a day is more than enough. Train that activates mTOR, eat 4 hours after, eat 4 hours after that, eat 4 hours after that. That is 4 mTOR activations. That is optimal. That is the maximum. That is where you're going to see the best sort of performance gains in regards to building muscle. I'm a big fan of fasting. I believe you can burn fat and build muscle. I did. It does take a lot longer. So if you'd rather be lean and do it, over a longer period of time, that's fine. But as you say, it is easier to build and then cut. But the beauty of being carnivores, you're not going to store an awful lot of fat anyway. Your body is a fat burning machine. You're not going to be storing lots of fat unless you're consuming carbohydrate or activating insulin. And that activation of insulin for you is coming through that elevation of cortisol. So you are increasing insulin through the activation of cortisol, which is storing more fat, and then that's pushing you to the gym to train more, and it's this vicious circle. So you just need to come away from all of that, as Steve says, and as we say, possibly look at some coaching maybe.
Yeah, and you can tell from Richard's answer he's rather good at this sort of thing. And we've both done that. We've both done bodybuilding shows, and we've both built muscle and lost fat at the same time. We're not saying that can't be done, but anyway, right, here we go. NY Fly Fishing. Hi guys, I recently bought a protein powder and noticed one of the ingredients is sunflower lecithin. Could this be problematic? Thanks, Nathan.
I don't believe so. I'm not a big fan of sunflower, but lecithin is fantastic for the gut. It's been known to heal and repair the gut. Egg lecithin is better, but the research I've done into sunflower lecithin shows that it still elicits a benefit in repairing and healing the gut. So despite having that tag sunflower, I'm all for animal proteins. Gravitate more towards, the animal side of things, but I would not be put off by sunflower lecithin. If it was a sunflower oil, different matter, but lecithin has shown incredible benefits to the gut. So I wouldn't personally be overly concerned in regards to that.
And what do you sell as a protein powder? Because I know you keep your light under your bushel, but you design and sell supplements. So, I mean, here's a great question for you. What does your protein powder contain?
So mine's got 9 natural ingredients. If you look at the list of any other proteins, there are one famous protein that I reference, which is 3 letters beginning with U and ending in N. Full of crap, endocrine disruptors, all sorts of nasties. And it's meant to be protein. How can a protein powder contain between 70 and 100 ingredients? It's absolute rubbish. Those endocrine disruptors are blocking the body's ability to absorb those nutrients within there. Mine are all natural. It's casein and whey based. And yes, we said earlier casein can cause issues, but it is absorbed better than isolate, believe it or not. Now, isolate is the one that's pushed within the community because of its ability to absorb quickly. And it does. But it absorbs so quickly and it's only in the system for 1.5 hours, absorbed around about 10 grams per hour, which means that if you were to consume 50 grams of this, only 15 is actually being absorbed. So there is an advantage to using casein in this regard. So I use both. It's an 80-20 split. And we use the natural probiotics from the casein. But nine ingredients. I'll have to see if I can grab a tub. In fact, I haven't got any with me, but it's... Yeah. While you're answering the next question, I will pull the list up actually and read through everything one by one. But it's
okay. Yeah. And I flashed up that the original time he got that I need to say this, by the way, if you put a question in, we're live, so we can't get to it instantly. But originally the questioner said, I recently bought a whey protein isolate powder. So they are different. Protein powder and isolate powder is different. Right, let me answer the next question then. Andy828, what are your thoughts on isometric exercises? Firstly, let's explain what an isometric exercise is. That's pretty much where you're in the same position. So you might lift a weight and decide to hold it like this, for instance, if it's a barbell. Now, what's that good for? Well, obviously for that specific joint angle, that's particularly good. What you're doing is you're contracting the muscle, you're not lengthening it. So joint stability in this, wow, that's great, isn't it? That's fantastic. Most exercises do need to be dynamic, in my opinion, but you've asked me about isometric. It's quite convenient as well. So if you want to do your shoulders, and let's say you have a shoulder injury or impingement or something, you can get your shoulders to where you feel comfortable. You're not going through a range of motion. You're not going to be unstable. So you could do a shoulder exercise. So convenience is a part of it. And it's also pretty good for rehab as well. So, I've won a tennis tournament, never had tennis elbow, but I did have an elbow that hurt when I was stupidly riding on a bike too fast, took a corner too fast and went flying over it and hurt my elbow. And it's very good for rehab because what you do, believe it or not, you go to the angle that hurts and that hurts there, and then you hold it. Okay, and the point of that is that the body has that training response, a physiological response, thinks, right, okay, we've got to work on that area. And you bring in local inflammation, which sounds bad, but actually it's good. Right, okay, so what's the cons? Well, everything we just said in reverse. So when you go like this, you're not lengthening the muscle. So you're not getting that full range of motion, and it's not a dynamic exercise. So like a squat, people do wall squats, that's okay, but you probably find more results from a squat when you're going down lower than parallel as well, and you'll get better results in the main. All right. It can raise your blood pressure. That could be down to technique, your breathing technique. People tend to sort of and not breathe. All right. Whereas if you're doing a dynamic exercise, you do that Courtney thing where you blow you use your breath to blow the thing up, and then let your breath go out. So, and it is very specific to that joint angle. So let's use that example again, because I can show you that angle's great, but that angle might not be. That angle might not be. So that's that. And the last thing is, I find isometric exercises incredibly boring. So anyway, pros and cons. It could be part of a training program, absolutely, but I personally wouldn't have it as a big part. But again, it's a context. If you've got the shoulder impingement, if you've got a particular thing you're trying to rehab, maybe include a little bit more. Right. Did that give you enough time, Rich?
Yeah, spot on. Jonathan's already popped it into the chat. There is one thing that we have taken out of there is the xanthan gum, and the vanilla obviously doesn't contain the cocoa powder either. But it's so it's about 7 ingredients, but it's 80% casein, as we say, 20% whey, egg albumin, probiotic, natural probiotic which come from the casein also. So it's all natural. Stevia, you can argue, is unnatural, but I mean it does come from a plant, and if it's obtained correctly, I don't believe that it is a big impact in regards to causing issues within the body. Stevia works really well for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but it's one of those products that, in regards to the electrolytes, perfect example. I know a lot of people have asked about the electrolytes being available in an unflavored version, and I've had a lot of people requesting this because the electrolytes are fantastic, but the hardcore carnivore community don't want to consume stevia. There's so little stevia in there that it's almost not worth mentioning. And I'm sure that by law that it's so little, we don't even have to put it on there. But for full disclosure, we put everything that we use. But I've sent some of these people samples of the electrolytes without the stevia, and they've come back and said that it's absolutely disgusting. And it's unfortunately, salt in water is not absolutely brilliant to taste, and that's what the electrolytes are. And it's the same with the protein. So we can do an unflavored protein, but you would want to mix it with something. And I believe that the little bit of stevia that is in there is negligible. I use it. I don't use it every day because I'm carnivore. All I eat is meat. I don't feel the need to top up, but I use it on those occasions. If I'm on the road and I need, a quick fix, I will take it with me. And as a treat, it's a fantastic one to mix in a full-fat Greek yogurt. So brilliant as a treat. And I feel like I'm being really naughty when I do that. And I think if that is all you have to worry about in regards to living this lifestyle, then you don't have an awful lot to worry about. But fantastic product.
Absolutely brilliant answer. Right, okay. I wonder if my answer to the next question is going to annoy Rich, and he's going to say something completely different. So it's from Matthew. Now, before I answer this, my last 15 years have been spent predominantly doing rehab. Okay, so my answer is going to be very different, I think, to Rich's. But anyway, no matter how many times I've tried, I don't seem to benefit from doing lateral raises. Is neutral grip shoulder press or rear delt flies on a machine enough for shoulders? Is there any good subs for lateral raises? Right. Well, if you take my opinion, you wouldn't be bothered about lateral raises because they're incredibly bad for shoulder joints. It's not how the shoulder is designed. And when you start doing lateral raises, the gap here, I don't want to get too technical, basically you are setting yourself up for an injury. So you need to rotate your arms slightly if you're going to do lateral raises, and actually not do the pouring out the water movement, but in fact actually have your thumbs going up towards the sky. That's going to improve your shoulder health. I'm not talking about bigger muscles. I'm not talking about more strength. I'm not talking about looking great in the mirror. I'm talking about how to have a healthy shoulder. So I don't actually put in any of my workout plans lateral raises because I don't want someone to come back injured. And this was a big talking point when I did my qualification because I really focused on injury prevention, and my tutor hated this and said, no, we're looking at what's optimal. And I said, well, mate, if you're injured, you can't do anything. So I think it's a big point, and there's been many people that have said to me, no, that's rubbish. And they've come back 2 years later, 3 years later, and they've been on my rehab table with a bad shoulder. All right. So because they didn't want to listen to me, because so many people push lateral raises. Anyway, I'm going to let Richard get into it now. That's my 2 penneth.
So another one of mine. So look, it's why are you doing them is the question, and it's purely aesthetic. And I achieved pretty big delts when I was competing. I was looking through pictures previously, not long after I won the European Championship, and I was absolutely huge this way, which is ideal for physique. So bodybuilding is an illusion. It's about making your X frame look as big as possible, as wide as you can up top, with as narrow of a waist as you can, with your legs as big as you can. So lateral raises didn't work for me. As Steve says, they're not good for you, but if you are wanting to do them for aesthetic purposes, you need to think about where your lats are poking out. And when you do this, for example, when you're standing or posing, that most of your lat there is coming from the back. Yet when you're doing the lateral raise, it's training the side. So what I used to do is with the dumbbells, I used to bend over with the dumbbells and do almost rear type raises this way and towards the back to build the back. So when you were in this posing position, it actually added inches, quite literally. And I came across a picture recently, and I was shocked because I've lost all of this now because I'm doing running and cycling. It's a little bit is still there, for someone who hasn't trained weights in over a year. I'm not in bad shape. I still look half tidy in a vest. But that's what I used to do, is don't concentrate on ones to the side so much. I wasn't even overly concerned on the front delts, because a lot of this is hit through bench and incline bench and all these other movements, which we can target with barbell and dumbbells. But it was the towards the back, the rear of the delts are the ones that I was targeting. So when you are actually standing like this, or your arms to the side, you actually look 2 to 3 inches bigger. It's an illusion. But again, it comes back to why you want to achieve that. If it's for aesthetic purposes, then go for it. If it's for health, as Steve said, it's not a natural movement. But losing weight around the midsection is going to be where you're going to see the biggest benefit, because if you're the smaller you are here, the bigger that X frame or that V is going to look. And then you just go for tighter t-shirts and you look bigger anyway.
Yeah. And just for the people listening in the audio podcast, it's having a small waist will accentuate your shoulders. So that's brilliant. So Matthew's trying to ask many questions. We're going to get into this one because I think it's quite a broad question for everybody. Are nitrate additives in meats such as bacon and corned beef good for testosterone?
So nitrates in food in general has been demonized, but lots of things in regards to food has been demonized. Now nitrates break down into nitrites, and nitrites increase nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator and is directly correlated with longevity. Longevity meaning you live longer. So are the nitrates damaging in the first place would be the question. They don't bother me. I'm not concerned at all. And there is some evidence to show that supplementing with forms of nitrates can increase the production of testosterone. How solid that is, or how big that benefit, I can't remember, but it doesn't put me off consuming my pork, my bacon. I don't believe that there are big issues with nitrates. I think it's one of these ones that have been oversold. And turmeric is another one. We're told to consume turmeric because it's good for us. And It is not. It's another one of these fallacies, these lies that we've been fed that is still lingering there, that just it leads us to being unwell. So we go back to the doctor and get more medications. And it's the same with these healthy foods, isn't it? This is why we're told not to consume red meat, because red meat is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet, or certainly one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Unfortunately, this is the time that we're in. We're told to do all of the wrong things. As we, we're told to consume the grains. We're told to avoid saturated fats and to worry about our cholesterol and to watch our protein intake and eat lots of grains and eat our soy and what else is there? Eat our lean meats and avoid sodium. And it's the opposite. Well, this is why we are a sick nation, because we are doing all of the wrong things. We believe that we're doing right, but this is probably a topic for the next channel, the Apple Crumble, but it's a hidden agenda, I think,
Yeah, and I think you didn't touch on the testosterone bit of it. And I think that's because, sorry, Rich, go on.
I do believe, so from what I can remember, the research, the nitrates, it can increase, but as to how much, I'm unsure. If you have more to add to that, it'd be brilliant. But I can't remember. It was a long time ago I read the research in regards to this.
Well, you see, the thing is, because nitrates are a part of that, as soon as I say it, it'll go, yeah, that makes sense. Nitrates are part of the nitric oxide production in the body that helps your cardiovascular health, which may then, if you've got someone that's cardiovascular healthy, they're going to have higher levels of testosterone. So it might be an indirect correlation if you've seen studies with people having additional nitrates. Of course, from the phlebotomy side of things, it would be a remiss of me not to say that babies and infants actually do have potential problems, but it comes from vegetables and the nitrates in vegetables. So there you go. It's a long word. Globinemia or something like that. You want to look it up. It's a known thing for children, infants, and they have problems basically carrying oxygen in the blood, and you have to test for that. And it can be nitrates in veg. There you go. So another cross against the vegan diet for kids. But there's a good question. I like the question. That was great. So we are 3 minutes away from ending. I will put in the chat. I will put this question up and I will get the link for the 8 o'clock on the other platform, Apple Crumble. I'll put the link in the chat, and maybe while I'm doing that, Rich can just answer this very quickly. Is there any value in drinking hydrogen water, dissolved hydrogen in water?
To be honest, Steve, I think this is one of the questions that you're going to be best versed on. It's not something I've looked into in great detail. I know it's a topic that we've mentioned to discuss in a podcast. It's one that I haven't gone down with,
Yeah, well, let's do that then. Let's say we'll go into that. I mean, I think you might be referring to a Japanese study because of its antioxidant properties. Anyway, in the chat, if you want to ask that question on Rumble, did I say it? Sorry. Apple Crumble, I meant to say. Click on that link, and from 8 o'clock, we'll be there. And you can just put your questions in the live chat. You can put it in the comments. And basically, we're going to leave YouTube now and say thanks very much for tuning in. Matthew's just dived in with soy is bad, but is soy lecithin? Is that bad? Soy?
I guess soy is generally a no-no, isn't it? But I mean, again, the lecithin does confer a benefit. Again, try, if you are supplementing with lecithin, for example, get it from eggs. If it's in the product, I wouldn't be overly concerned, but I don't like the word soy on anything generally. But there's if you have research to say that the lecithin part itself, because it is isolated, it's causing an issue, send it to me. I'll be glad. I'll gladly look at it and go through it. But it's from what I've looked at recently, lecithin is incredible. It's just a shame that it has to come from that 3-letter.
I'm going to wrap up with HDL's last comment. You guys skipped my reply earlier. I feel wonderful every day with 200 gram protein. Higher fat causes fat gain for me. 100 gram protein is too little calories. So there's your answer. You do your 200 grams of protein, but do it lean. I didn't skip it deliberately. It's just we were trying to sort of get everybody's question in. So that's great. Hopefully we'll see you on the other platform. Saying goodbye, Richard.
Thank you all. See you on the other platform.
Yes, hope you do follow us. Most people do, actually. Bye.